This video is going to talk briefly about the Constitution and basically the purpose of the Constitution, which is to create the rules that the government has to follow. And that's kind of the misconception that some people have about the Constitution. They believe it's to tell the citizens what they can and can't do, when in fact it is meant to tell the government what it can and cannot do. For example, the government can't just ban guns, because in the Second Amendment to the Constitution, we have the right to bear arms. And so there can be laws to restrict the purchase of guns, for example, waiting periods and background checks. But no one politician, no one president, no Congress can just outlaw them without actually amending the Constitution. We also have situations like censorship that cannot occur because of some of the First Amendment rights, such as freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom of religion, and so the government can't censor. We have due process rights, like the right to a trial by jury, and the right to a speedy and public trial, the right to an attorney, and in addition to that, we have protection from police overstepping their bounds. So in the Fourth Amendment, we have freedom from unreasonable search and seizure. We have the Fifth Amendment right of freedom from self-incrimination, so that you don't have to answer questions that can incriminate yourself. And so, that's what the Constitution's for. It's to create the rules that the government has to follow. Now, the framers of the Constitution actually had a lot of foresight, because though they put together a document that really stood the test of time, they understood that there might be times where we would need to add to it or alter it. And so in the fifth article of the Constitution, and if you remember back from our first unit, the First article created the legislative branch. The second article created the executive branch. The third article created the judicial branch. Well, the fifth article detailed how we can amend the Constitution. And so that article gave Congress, in particular, the power to change the Constitution through the passing of amendments. So basically, a proposed amendment. For example, there was a movement a few years ago to define marriage as that between a man and a woman, which basically would have made gay marriage unconstitutional. So that never actually came to a vote. But if it had, it would have to first pass through the House of Representatives by a 2/3 vote. And that would have to go to the Senate, where it would need to pass by a 2/3 vote. So right now, this might remind you of the process where Congress can override a presidential veto. But what is different here is that there's a third step, and this involves the states. And it was very important to the states back when the Constitution was being passed that they had some say-so. The states had been autonomous, and now we're being thrown together into this new one nation, basically, and they wanted to make sure that they still could impact the federal government. And so any amendment needs to go through the states in order to become part of the Constitution, and it has to go to the states, and 3/4 of the states have to ratify or approve that amendment, which right now would mean 38 states would have to pass something for it to become a part of the Constitution. And so, that video, just a quick little overview, just to give you an idea about the purpose of the Constitution and how we change it. And now we're going to talk about the Bill of Rights in particular, which is the first 10 amendments to the Constitution. So that'll be where we go next.